Welcome, everyone. This is Jason Clemmons, Doctor of Chiropractic at the Rock Health and Wellness Center, and this is Life with Jason Clemmons, DC, on this beautiful, cold in Lubbock, Texas, Tuesday, January 7th, right here from the Rock Health and Wellness Center studios, and on 98.7 Walk by Faith Radio, 1420 AM Lubbock Christian Nation. Thank you guys for listening to the show. I hope you had a great day. It's been a good start of the year at the Rock. And we're ready to get after it tonight. We're ready to get after this year. I can't wait. I had a lady the other day, right before Christmas, or maybe right after, and I said something to the effect of, "You got any big plans for 2025?" And she just kind of looked at me and she said, "I hope it's better than the last 4 years." And I started thinking, she's 86 years old, and I started thinking, what happened in the last 4 years in her life? I was like, uh-oh, did I miss something in her intake form or something like that? And I don't even know if I mentioned this yesterday, but she said that to me, and I was like, we've had 5 years in a row. If you take the COVID year out, we've had 5 years in a row of growth in my practice, and I take care of all people. Democrats and Republicans, and independents and all the rest of that stuff. So this is not a political show. This is a health and wellness show, but we're looking for our 6th year in a row of growth. So we're getting after it. This has never been a better time to be a health and wellness doctor in the history of mankind. I don't think. We've got so much stuff we could do. We got so much technology that we could share and get out there to you and share it with you. And I know you guys that listen to this show both on social media and on the radio, you guys are warriors. You're getting to be that way. You're getting to be really smart a lot of you are way smarter than me anyway, but you're starting to learn a lot of stuff about health and wellness, and you're getting good at it. So thanks for watching the show. Thanks for, texting us. If you want to text us tonight, 806-794-0400. That's our text line. And I'd be glad to answer any of your questions. I'd be glad to talk to you later if you want to talk to me. You can send me a message on any of our social media pages, and I'll try to get back to you. I'm going to actually try something. I tried it earlier, and I'm going to try it again. Let's see. Yeah, there we go. So I shared a link. I know you young people don't think that's very cool, but hey, some of us guys, some of us older 50. I heard a person say over the break. It said that 50-year-olds are freshman old people. I thought that was funny. I was like, "Yep, I'm starting to think that might be true." It's like we're new to we're in a new group. I don't know what you call us, but we're in a new group, and there's just things that we do that's really exciting, and so that's what I did. I shared this. I don't even know what happened to it. What happened if it actually showed up somewhere. Let me see. It's in the comments, and yeah, there's a link. There's a link in the comments. And it'll take you right to it. There you go. So there's my first one. There's my first link. You guys better watch out. You better watch out now, because I figured out how to link stuff to this show. So if you're on the radio and you want to catch us on any of the social media, you could go to the Walk by Faith Facebook page. You can go to the Rock Health and Wellness Center's Facebook page. You can catch us on YouTube at Health from the Rock, or you can go to Twitter, X, and Jason Clemmons DC and get it. So the article, let's get serious, because I know you guys are ready for some stuff, right? And we're going to get into fundamentals this week. That's what we were talking about last night on the show. If you missed it last night, go back and watch that one. That was a good show, I think. And we're talking about fundamentals of health. And that's what we're going to get into, fundamentals of nervous system function tonight. Tomorrow night, we're going to do nutrition. We're going to break down basal metabolic rate. How many calories do you burn just being alive? We're going to break down macros tomorrow night. And we'll talk about nutrition tomorrow night. But for me, fundamentals of health starts with the nervous system. Fundamentals of health starts with the brain. But there was two articles that I saw today that I just thought were really cool. One of them is what I posted right here, so you can see it in the comments, and it's a conversation, and I mentioned it. I mention it every once in a while. Um, this Dr. John Campbell and he's some sort of I don't want to be disrespectful, but I don't know exactly what his title is, but he's a doctor of nursing, I think, from England, and he's having this conversation with Dr. David Grimes, who appears to be one of the most educated people in the world on vitamin D, and there's some really good information in that their little conversation that they had. So, and it goes back to it really fits into what we're talking about tonight when we're talking about innate intelligence, and we're talking about the environment that we put innate intelligence in order to express health and wellness. And I thought it was great, and I learned some things, and Dr. Grimes put some things together right there that makes some sense to me as to, like, he got into talking about vitamin D and heart attacks, and he's talking about heart attacks are basically inflammation from infection, and how vitamin D helps infection and it decreases heart attacks. He got into all kinds of stuff. He got into rickets, which is a problem that you have when you have low vitamin D, insufficient vitamin D, and osteomalacia, which is an adult form of that, and also how that relates. Vitamin D relates to tuberculosis and how it relates to MS, and we've talked about that on the show before. And the need for vitamin D in fetal development, the need for nervous system function, immune system function, how important vitamin D is, right? And so that's what that article is about. That's what that video is about. If you guys want to go and watch that, I think you'll enjoy it. It's really some good stuff. If you're on the radio and you don't have access to any of this, and you have YouTube, you can just look up Dr. John Campbell. It's Vitamin D, the Study of Disease. It's a conversation with Dr. David Grimes. So you can look that up and watch it. So I think it's great. We'll probably take some of this information and bring it into tomorrow night's conversation when we get into the fundamentals of nutrition. So the next thing I want to share with you, and look, especially in a health and wellness thing, I don't treat disease, right? It's not my scope of practice. Medicine's not my scope of practice. Prescriptions are not my scope of practice. I'm not interested in any of that stuff. It has nothing to do with wellness in the first place, right? But I do try to share with you information that I get when it comes to you making good choices for yourself. So what I would present for your consideration on this article is to talk to your medical doctor about it. Read it for yourself and use your own brain and see if it makes any sense. But it's not my thing, other than it will apply to what we're talking about tonight when we talk about innate intelligence. And let me see if I can just share it with you and see what it looks like right here. But this is a Dr. McCullough type of study right here, and the study just basically says COVID-19 mRNA injections dose-dependently increase risk of SARS-CoV-2 infection by up to 121%. It comes from Nicholas Holsker, MPH. Don't even know what that means. And then it's got multiple articles. And basically what it's saying is the more vaccines you get, the more chance you have of getting COVID down the line. And it goes through the whole background, the methods. It was done on administered by the Japan Small and Medium Enterprise Management Council in December of 2023. Participants included individuals who were part of the Yamato project, not necessarily limited to SME employees. The survey gathered information on demographics, characteristics, COVID-19 infection status, vaccination history, health status before 2020, and various preventative behaviors. The results And the conclusions, the study observed a higher reported incident of COVID-19 infections among vaccinated individuals during the pandemic period, which increased with the number of vaccine doses received. So it's not my scope. I don't care about that because I don't do that stuff, but you guys might. And so you might want to know, you might want to say, look at it, read it over, listen to what Dr. McCullough has to say, what some of these articles have to say, and just see if it fits in your world, and then take it to your medical doctor and ask him about what he thinks about it. So that's all I'm going to say about it. I just want you to have it. You can look at it if you want to, and that's that. So those are pretty cool stuff that I thought was pretty cool. So last night we took health to church, and we talked about having a ministry. We talked about how important it was that our health in our ministry, we understood that there's a relationship between our health and our ministry, and that even for the non-Christian people, your health is still important. It's a vital component of human existence. You either are moving yourself towards health or you're moving yourself away from health with every decision you make. You should just think about that for just a second. With every decision you make, you're either moving yourself towards health or you're moving yourself away from health. Now, if you're relatively healthy, maybe you've got a lot of free decisions you can make. One soda pop on one day is probably not going to damage you completely. Probably not going straight to the emergency room with one soda pop, right? But how many of those do you add up in your lifetime before you really start to push yourself out of health and wellness? And then once you get out of health and wellness, what do you do? Depending on the severity of how far you're away from health and wellness will dictate your intensity to try to get back. Right? If you just gain a few pounds, it's like, whatever, I'll just work out a little bit and it's not that big a deal. If you get a cancer diagnosis, it's a way different deal. Right? Like all of a sudden, if you get a cancer diagnosis, your level of intensity will want to move you back. If you get your blood work done, your cholesterol is super high, or if you get your blood work done and your A1C is high or whatever, and your insulin, your glucose, all that stuff, you get a diabetes diagnosis, you might be a little bit more intense to want to maybe bring yourself back. But if your dad passes away from diabetes, or your wife, you're not your wife, your mom passes away from diabetes, your intensity level goes up. I can attest to that. I know that for a fact because I've seen it in my house. Leslie's dad passed away from diabetes. She does not want anything to do with that nasty disease. And so her intensity level went up when it came to that, right? So we want to know that stuff. And when we're talking about trying to make sure that our health is important and understanding that our health is important, then there are some really easy, fundamental things that we can do. And I was talking to Joe Fraley, my good friend in Ruidoso, one of the smartest people I know. He called me on Sunday. We talked for about an hour and 15 minutes-ish. And because we can't ever not talk about, for an hour, and no matter what. It's like, whoa, okay. So, and we were talking about things, and he was talking about his new plan for the year and how he wanted to do better with his patients and how he wanted to move his patients through his office to make sure that they got all of the things that they needed, that they were able to that he wasn't missing anything. And we had a really good conversation about that. And he's like, I just want to make sure that they're getting the nutrition that they need. I want to make sure that they're getting the corrective care that they need. I want to make sure that they're getting the exercise that they need. He's like, if we could just do those three things, we'd probably cover about 70% of healthcare problems. I laughed. I was like, yeah, that's not that hard. It's not that hard. It's like, wow, okay. There are some fundamental things that we can do, that we can make ourselves healthier, right? And so let's start with the nervous system. And you might ask the question, why would you okay, this is where you start to lose me right here, because why wouldn't you start with nutrition, or why wouldn't you start with exercise? There's the basic fundamental things: nutrition, diet, and exercise. Everybody gets diet and exercise because it's been talked about so much. The thing that they don't get is the nervous system drives the decisions of what we're doing. The nervous, I read some statement from somebody talking about depressed people have hypersexuality. That was one of my sentences that I read over the break. Depressed people have hypersexuality. I was like, yeah, I know they do. Because depression comes from the right brain, and hypersexuality comes from a lack of dopamine in the left brain. Because hypersexuality is not anything different than hyperchocolatality, right? Or hypercarbality, or hypersweetsality, or any of those things that a person goes and searches for whenever they feel like they need to add meaning to their life. When your life, it's like depressing. When it's like when you get to that point where you're asking yourself, is this all there is? Or, man, today sucks. Like, I hate my life. Like, nothing's going right. Like, I can't get any satisfaction out of anything. That's a left hemisphere, deprived left hemisphere, in my opinion, based on my study. That's an overactive right hemisphere and an underactive left hemisphere. And it's like, why are you saying all this? Well, because your decisions on what you're going to eat and your decisions on whether or not you're going to work out are going to be driven by your nervous system first. And your nervous system is working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, from the time of conception to the time of death. Your nervous system is starting, bam, your spirit running through those two cells, those two cells that become one cell. There you go. I saw a baby, a picture this morning of a young baby that was born, one of my family members' niece or something, and the baby was premature, and it was 3 pounds 4 ounces. It was 6 weeks premature, and Leslie showed me a picture of this cute little baby. I think it's a little boy, but I don't know for sure. But either way, it's a cute little dude. And one of the things that I thought of when I saw, and Leslie even made the statement, she's like, it's, even though it's very tiny, he's very cute. And I looked at the skin, and I thought to myself, because I don't know exactly what day the skin develops, but I thought, this baby's premature and it's got skin. Like, think about that for a second. Like, have you ever thought about that? Which day of embryonic development do you develop skin? I don't know that. I answered that question in chiropractic school somewhere along the way, I know, or something like it, but I don't remember. When those two cells become one cell, I'm pretty sure there's not skin that day. And then that divides. Remember, like we talked about last night, day 13, we get differentiation, and some of those cells become skin cells, and some of them become bone cells, and some of them become organs. Remember, that whole process that's going on, one of the very first things that develops is what's called the primitive streak. And the primitive streak is the folding over of these cells. So it is the beginning of the spinal cord. It's the beginning of the nervous system. So we're getting nervous system activity from the very beginning. If you listen to that conversation on that YouTube channel that I shared in the post, then one of the statement is, we need vitamin D for nervous system development in the last 3 months of our embryonic development of our first 9 months of life. Those last 3 months are very crucial for vitamin D. He even makes a statement in the video that babies that are born in October and November have less MS than babies that are born December, January, February, March, April. Because, and I don't know if that's true, but that's what he said in the video. He said because the moms, the babies that were born in October, their mothers were growing those babies through the summer. And the moms had a higher chance of getting vitamin D levels up in the summertime, which shared the vitamin D with the babies. And so they had the increased amount of vitamin D in the last 3 months of development. So they had less opportunity to have issues with their immune system function later on down the road. They also, and so that was in the, that's from Dr. Grimes in the book there, in the video, but he also wrote a book about it too. He's a very educated man when it comes to vitamin D, which is very interesting. He said that, if you're born in March or April, then your mom spent the winter inside, didn't have enough vitamin D, so you ended up having a weaker nervous system, which controls your immune system. Don't ever kid yourself about that. And we've used the example of Christopher Reeve, and I want to be very careful because I watched the Christopher Reeve show over the break too on Netflix. I think might have been Prime, but I watched it over the break, and I need to be really careful when I talk about Christopher Reeve from now on because of the admiration I got from him by watching the show. I didn't know him so much personally before I watched his documentary, but he was a good dude. Like he really was a good dude, and he really, really tried to be a good dad, and he really tried to, he really tried to do good things for good people, good things for people. And but it's nervous system. Breaking his neck, you break your neck, you cut your nervous system off from your body, you'll die from an infection of a bed sore. That's why I always start with the nervous system. So let's talk about the nervous system tonight. Let's just talk just a little bit. I got some different things, and then I've got a really cool article that I really can't wait to bring you guys in depth. But I want to use it tonight as an illustration of why it's important to keep your nervous system functioning properly, and then we'll get into the depths of it later. But just talking about the nervous system, like when we talk about the nervous system, what is the nervous system? If we're going to be very foundational with it, what is it that we're exactly talking about? How did a little kid, a little guy asked me yesterday, hey, how come he was spinning around on the stool in my office, and he stopped spinning, and he said, and then he was really dizzy, and he said, Dr. Jason, why do after you stop spinning do you still feel really dizzy? And I said, do you want me to tell you the real answer to that, or you just want me to make up some adult answer to that? Because he's in like third grade, I think. And he was like, I want you to tell me the real answer. So I drew the canals of the ear. I just drew one canal of the ear with the little nerve endings that's inside the vestibular system inside your ear, and I showed it to him what happens when you move fluid inside the ear. And I went into my office and got my glass of tea, and I swirled it around inside the cup, and then I showed him. I said, as soon as you stop swirling it around, look what happens. The fluid still moves inside the cup, right? If you swirl it around and then you look at the fluid, it's still moving. And so as it's moving, it's hitting the nervous system and it's making you feel like you're moving. That's the whole idea with vertigo and all those things that people deal with when they, it's like, wow, all of a sudden the whole room is spinning, right? That's the nervous system. That's interference in the nervous system. That's disruption in the nervous system. And so that disruption of the nervous system is called a subluxation. So what is the nervous system? The nervous system is the central nervous system is the brain and the spinal cord. So your brain will come together, make your brain stem, which means that your brain's going to get really thin right at the lower base because it's going to exit out of your skull. and then it's going to turn into a spinal cord, which is going to go down to about L1, which is kind of right in the middle of your back. And then the spinal cord has just strings off of it like a horse's tail. They call it the cauda equina. And if you've ever seen a horse's tail, the tail is really short, but then the hair that comes off of the tail is very long. And that's what the nervous system, that's the central nervous system right there. The cord itself, and then about L1, the cord stops, and then you've got the cauda equina, which is all of these long fibers of nerves that are coming down, and now they're going all the way down to your sacrum, to the bottom of your spine. That's your central nervous system. Now, what's going to happen is that central nervous system is going to synapse. It's going to connect to your peripheral nervous system, and your peripheral nervous system are the nerves that are going to go out to your limbs. They're going to come around your ribs. They're going to go down your legs. It's it's part of your nerves, but it's a separate nerve. There's a nerve that goes from your finger up to your spine, then it synapses, and there's another nerve that goes to your brain. And those two things are your nervous system. And that's how your body communicates with itself, is through your nervous system. All right, we got to take a break. We'll be right back. We're going to keep going with this nervous system, and then we'll get into this article right after the break. So you guys stick around with us. All right, everybody, if you guys are watching that haven't watched the show before, just to make sure that you know, if you're new to the show, because I think we've got a few new listeners, this is a live social media show that's going on at the same time as a live radio show is happening. So this is a local radio station, Walk by Faith Radio. Victor and Letty Flores are the ones that own that. Bob Gray and Ken Adams are the ones Ken Adams is the one that got me started doing this. Bob's the one that kind of supports all the backside, those two guys together. They're just, as far as I know, volunteers are, if they're getting paid, it's not very much, I don't think. But that gives us a chance to reach some people in our own community that we might not reach otherwise. So, and the one thing I really love about the radio show is that it forces me to go live at 6 o'clock every night, Monday through Friday. There's no excuses. At 6 o'clock, that thing's coming on right there. And so I have to be here, and I've got to be, we're talking about something. So that I really don't want to give up on the radio station, because it holds my feet to the fire a little bit, and keeps me going. Because I could do this social media stuff anywhere. And so it's a little bit different than what other people in the world do, because a lot of guys they'll do a show and they'll edit the show, and then they've got people working, and they'll go in and cut everything in and out, and it's very professionally done and good for them. And our dreams, our hopes and dreams are that someday we can pull that off. Someday we'll be able to be professional, and we'll get this show going. But this is live. So what you guys are watching is real, and it's live, and it's clinical. But if you're not used to it, you might wonder, what is he doing? And that's why I keep this microphone, because it makes it better for the radio. The little mic I've got on my vest here is what we use for all of our social media stuff. So, and then we take a break here for a couple minutes. And that's what we're doing right now, is we're just taking a break. So, and now it's coming back. I'm listening to all that in my ear. We're getting okay with this. We've only had like 300 shows or something, so we're getting better at it. So let me get them back on. Okay, everybody, we're back. This is Life with Jason Clemmons, DC. We're talking about the fundamentals of health, the foundational things that we need to be healthy, the very simple things that we need to be healthy. And we're talking about the nervous system tonight. So your brain's trying to talk to your body, and your body is trying to talk to your brain. And actually, your body is trying to talk to your brain first. That's really what's going on first. Your your brain is receiving 3 trillion bits of information per second. Like you're getting tons of information. Like if last night I said something about you not thinking about your liver. Like right now you're not thinking about your foot, except for now you're thinking about your foot, right? Your nervous system is receiving information constantly from all the receptors in your body, from all the way from the bottom of your feet all the way through the top of your head. It's coming into through your peripheral nervous system, unless it's coming in through your eyes or your ears, some of your senses from that standpoint. It's all coming into your brain. So your brain is trying to take all that information and determine what is the most important information that it needs to decide upon. What is it that what do we need to do immediately, right? And that piece of information is processed. The rest of it gets inhibited. The rest of your information that's going on in your body, that's why you didn't think about your feet. You didn't really think about your feet because your brain was thinking about listening to the show, or your brain was thinking about something else, and it was inhibiting or dampening the information from your feet. As soon as you say feet, your brain says, what about my feet? Do I need to know anything about my feet? Why did he say feet? What does that mean? I could feel my feet. Of course, yeah, my right foot's on this stool over here. My left foot is, my heel's kind of touching the stool. And as a matter of fact, my right foot kind of hurts now because I just remembered that like the bottom of my foot is getting stretched across the bottom of this stool. And now my brain starts processing my foot, right? It wasn't processing my foot 30 seconds ago. It was thinking about something else. But my nervous system now is processing the most important things that it has to do. And then it's going to send all that information back down and set my body in order. It's going to determine how much stomach acid is released from my stomach. It's going to determine what's going on with the cholesterol in my liver. It's going to determine the white blood cell release from my bone marrow. It's going to determine red blood cell function. It's going to determine muscle tension. Which, what, am I sitting up straight or am I slouching? Am I leaning to one side or the other? All of those things are nervous system activities. And so much of it, Dr. McGilchrist and those guys talked about over 90%. He thought it was funny because someone said 97 or 93 or whatever, but well into the 90% of nervous system function is subconscious. You don't even feel it. You don't even know it's happening. You didn't know that your brain was talking to your liver or your liver was talking to your brain. You didn't know any of that stuff was going on before I mentioned it, right? But it's happening. Are you making your heart beat right now consciously? No. You're not thinking about, okay, beat, 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 beat. No, you would die. If you had to think consciously about your heart beating, you would die. No chance. There's no chance that you could do that. That is subconscious nervous system function that's going on in your nervous system every second of your life. Your nervous system is the master system of the body, and it's communication between the body and the brain. So what? Okay, well, great. You said something, but what does it mean? Like, who cares? Like, what difference does it make? Well, I'll tell you what difference it makes. Because your brain is receiving this information, it needs to be able to get all of the information. And when there's an interference between your body and your brain in the chiropractic world, we call that a subluxation. Now, according to the article that I'm about to talk to you about, there's actually it has a statement in here, a quote says, vertebral subluxation is recognized by the World Health Organization as a biomechanical lesion within the vertebral column. And that's a great sentence, but it doesn't give us any relevance as to who cares? What difference does it make? Right? Because you gotta take it one step further. That's why last night's show is so important. Last night's show was the understanding of innate intelligence. Okay? The vertebral subluxation is recognized by the World Health Organization as a biomechanical lesion within the vertebral column. It is characterized by abnormal movement or function of spinal segments, which is identified by clinical markers such as restricted intersegmental range of motion, tenderness upon palpation, palpable asymmetric intervertebral muscle tension, and altered joint play and end feel. Okay, what difference does it make if you have any of those things? If you have restricted intersegmental range of motion, tenderness upon palpation, any of those things, so what? The so what is that the signal now from the brain to the body to the brain, and from the brain to the body, now the signal's messed up. You don't get the signal. And so there's disruption in the nervous system. There's disruption in this medium that the spirit uses to communicate to all of the cells in your body. Now we've got disruption. We've got this breakdown in communication between the brain and the body. And we all know, have you ever, and the question I have here on the slide, have you ever been frustrated because someone won't listen to you? The brain and the body create symptoms to let each other know that they are frustrated. It's the reason we get adjusted. It is the single reason a person gets adjusted in a chiropractic office. It is the only reason a person gets adjusted. Now, if you don't have the understanding of innate intelligence or the belief of innate intelligence, then what you'll do is you'll go to the written definition of vertebral subluxation, and which I'm not discounting the written definition of vertebral subluxation, but what I'm saying is that's the world you'll live in. Now we're going to talk about restricted range of motion, tenderness upon palpation, palpable asymmetric intervertebral muscle tension. What does that mean? You got muscles that are tight on one side versus the other one, and you can feel them. Happens every day, all day long in our office. I can put my hands up. Doc, it's like my back hurts on the right. It's like something's going on over there. Put your hand on it. It's tight. That muscle's tight. Palpable, that means I can feel it. Asymmetric means it's not the same on both sides. Intervertebral muscle tension, that means that the muscles between the vertebrae are tight. Now we got restricted range of motion and all that sort of thing. And that's the world that people want us to live in. That's the world that people want me to live in. That's the world that young doctors that don't believe in innate intelligence want me to live in. That's the realm of medicine. That's the realm of physical therapy. That's the realm of massage therapy. That's all of those things are the discussion of the physical manifestation of the subluxation, which I have the hardest time, me personally, living in that world. I have the hardest time, and maybe that's a negative, maybe that's a default or a deficit of my personality. Maybe so. But to me, it's like, okay, I get it that there's muscle tension that's unequal on both sides of your spine. I get it that your right trap is all tight, but your left trap is not. I get it that your head is forward. I get it that all those sort of things. But what difference does it make? The difference it makes is it's interfering with your brain's ability to communicate with your body, and it's interfering with the input into your brain, which changes the balance between the right and the left hemisphere of your brain. And that is what changes your life. That's what ruins your life. That's what decreases the light that you shine into the world. Now, that's something that, for me personally, is worth getting up and coming to work every day for. I personally, if all I could do is talk about asymmetric muscle tension, I would quit chiropractic. Why would anybody spend their life doing that? Some people would love it, maybe. Not me. I wouldn't. I would not do that whatsoever, because I know. Well, the reason I don't do that, and the reason I don't run the Rock Pain Clinic, the reason it says the Rock Health and Wellness Center outside, is because of the understanding of the subluxation. And my brother-in-law taught me that when I went to work for him in March of 2000. It was, for me, the fundamental of chiropractic. It was the first week in chiropractic. We went to LA. We went to a seminar in LA. They had those Got Milk shirts. I've told you guys this. It said Got Subluxation. On the back, it said Get Adjusted. And I told him, I said, you didn't invent that word? And he was like, he just laughed at me. He was like, no, I didn't invent that word. And that was the life-changing moment for me. The day that I discovered what the subluxation was, because I got it. I got it like you can get it. Okay, if I have a spirit that uses the flesh to run my body, and now one of my major questions is maybe one of your major questions right now. Why is the spirit so handcuffed with the flesh? Why is that the case? Why did God set it up that way? And I don't know the answer to that question. Why can't we just snap our fingers and it doesn't make any difference what we eat or how we move or whether or not our joints move the way that they're supposed to move? Why does it matter? Why is it set up that way? Why isn't it all just straight energy with no resistance whatsoever? I don't know. I really don't know the answer to that question, why it was set up. I just understand that that's the way it's set up, to the ability that I have the ability to understand anything. That's the way it's set up. Your spirit uses something in the flesh. It uses skin. It uses bones. Like, this is all flesh, right? This is matter. This is matter. I can feel that, right? But that's the way the spirit communicates with the body, is through the nervous system. So it is vitally important that the nervous system functions properly. Now, when the nervous system doesn't function properly, then we start getting all kinds of problems that start happening. We start getting into all kinds of different things. I got the wrong PowerPoint up here right here. So let's see where, but there it is. Yeah. So here's the picture that I want to share with you. When our nervous system is not functioning properly, when we have those things of vertebral subluxation, this biomechanical lesion within the vertebral column, okay, now we have a joint segment that is not moving properly. Now that we have a segment that's not moving properly, and not we haven't even gotten into yet exactly what causes that, but once we have a segment that's not moving properly, and by the way, I'm talking from an article it's called The Neuroplastic Responses to Chiropractic Care, Broad Impacts on Pain, Mood, Sleep, and Quality of Life. This was in Brain Science, November 7th, 2024, by a whole group of people. Some of the authors were from the New Zealand College of Chiropractic. Some of them were from Aalborg University in Denmark. There's another university in Pakistan. There's a university in the UK, University Medical Center in the Netherlands, King's College of UK, and the University of Aberdeen in the UK. This is the study cites 169 references. So that's what I'm talking about. Just from the vertebral subluxation standpoint, it's like, what does a vertebral subluxation do to me? Well, afferent information goes from the body to the brain. So now we're getting disafferentation. And I know those are big words, but the input into the brain changes. And when the input into the brain changes, it changes the function of the brain. And changing the function of the brain changes all of the function of your body. All of it. What it does in your brain is it's just that's why it's vitally important that we get your nervous system checked. And you're not going to get that from anybody else on the planet other than the chiropractor. And everybody else in the medical field is either going to throw stones at the chiropractor for saying something like that, or they're not going to have any idea what the chiropractor is talking about. I mean, very seldom do we run across a person that's outside of chiropractic that gets it in the medical field. Some of the people kind of do, but they don't. It's like not 100% on this subluxation thing. It's very, very important to make sure we have free information flowing from in the body, and that we have balance and appropriate right side and left side brain function. We have appropriate cerebellum function. If you don't see what I think what happens is it's way easier to understand when we use an example that it's gone wrong. Let's take Parkinson's disease. Let's take Parkinson's disease and how it disrupts through the upper brain stem, the upper part of the brain, the lower brain, and the cerebellum. Let's talk about what happens to a person and how it's hard to stand up. Because one of my guys is dealing with it. He's dealing with falling because he doesn't have any balance. And why doesn't he have any balance? Because he has disruption in his nervous system. It's not because he has weak legs. It's not because he has weak glutes. He may have weak legs and weak glutes, but that's a result of what's going on in his brain. Right? You guys know that. You have people, MS is another one. People that have multiple sclerosis, people that have cerebral palsy. You've seen that whole thing with cerebral palsy and how it'll make your muscles their head's tilted in one direction, their shoulder is internally rotated, their arm is bent, your wrist is bent. You've seen old people. My grandmother had ALS. She sat in a nursing home with ALS, and she was all internally rotated, and her hands were all bent up. Why is that? Why is that a thing? Why do our hands do that when we get old? Is there something wrong with my wrist? Is there something wrong with my finger? Is there something wrong in my arm? No. I mean, in ALS, we lose that connection of the nerve to the muscle. That is a problem, but we lose that brain ability to keep that muscle functioning the way that it's supposed to. So fundamentally, the input into the brain is vitally important. The balance of the brain is vitally important. The nutrition to the nervous system, and this is not the nutrition talk, but the nutrition to the nervous system is vitally important. The nutrition to the brain is vitally important. The brain's controlling the brain is controlling the immune system. How many of you ate a bunch of sugar and got sick over the break? You didn't put those two things together. You didn't say to yourself, oh man, I don't know why I got sinusitis. I don't know really why I got bronchitis. I don't really know why I got COVID again for the fourth time, right? None of those things, we don't really put those things together that maybe some of the nutrition that our brain was lacking might be causing a lack of immune system function, right? If I wanted to have the strongest immune system possible, maybe I would want to have the strongest brain possible. I think so. I think that's a true statement. So The subluxation is interference in the nervous system. It's the only reason a person gets adjusted. You're subluxated. You have interference in your nervous system somewhere, from the brain, through the brain stem, the cerebellum, through the spinal cord, the peripheral nervous system. Somewhere there is interference in the nervous system causing an abnormal signal going from the body to the brain and the brain to the body, which is causing the body to go into a state of disorder or dis-ease. That's the fundamentals of health. That's the fundamental thing that starts all health right there. Right? So, fundamentally, what are we going to do about it? Now that it's like, okay, fine, Jason, you got that? You've explained that to us. What difference does it make? What do you got for me right there? Okay, I have to now try. That's what Joe and I talked for an hour on Sunday, Dr. Fraley. That's what we talked for an hour on was, okay, dude, now that you've got all this information, what are you going to do about it? How are you going to figure it out in a person? And I'm telling you, this is a lifetime journey. And I've been working at it kind of hard for 20 years. And I've really been working at it kind of really hard for the last 10 years nearly. Like, the longer you go, the more important it is. The longer you work at it, we pulled up to a fancy Range Rover this morning, blacked out, like a matte black Range Rover, fancy one, the big one, and all that. Dude, it was probably $100,000 vehicle or whatever. We pulled up next to it, and I was thinking, I wonder who drives that. And I don't have a car, so I sometimes I kind of look at those things, and I thought, dude, wonder what they do. They like, golly, that's a fancy car. And then I thought, what does it take to drive a car like that? And then I thought, maybe you shouldn't buy a neurofeedback machine and an Ultra-G and a Bright Eye program and a reflex program and all those things, right? Maybe if you didn't spend all your money on all your equipment that you have in your office, you'd have enough money to buy yourself a big old fancy Range Rover. Yeah, okay. Well, I'm still working on the Range Rover, don't get me wrong. But I'm spending my money on trying to figure out how do I get technology in my office so that I can detect and correct your subluxations. That's where my money goes right now. It goes into that. And that's where we want to get. We check heart rate in O2 saturation. I want to know what's your oxygen level and what's your heart rate. Are we getting enough fuel and activation in the nervous system? Are we getting enough oxygen to the nervous system? Is the nervous system functioning properly? Is the sympathetic nervous system overstimulated versus the parasympathetic nervous system? What is the nutrition that goes along with that? It gets complicated, right? Grip strength. I want to know, can you squeeze with both hands the same? That's an important thing for us to figure out. We want to know that, because if you can't, then it's something may be interfering in your brain. We do x-rays, we do physical exam, posture screen, we do the right eye test to see what the brain is doing, and we check the pupillary light reflex in the reflex app to see what's going on. Then we do a history. And I try to revamp that every single year. I try to figure out how to streamline that new patient experience in my office so I don't have to spend so much time on that first day discussing that. I can't figure out how to get past that history. I can get an assistant to help me. I can get an assistant to help me with check your O2 stat and your grip strength and even x-rays and all that stuff. I could get someone to help me with that. I can't get someone to sit in front of you and listen to what you're telling me and process 24 years of education plus another time of years of life. I can't get someone to process everything that I know about health by listening to the words that you say to me and having a discussion about your health. That I have not figured out how to do that. It's what irritates me so much about the physician's assistant, the PA, the nurse practitioner. It irritates the heck out of me that my patients go to the doctor and they don't see the doctor. And then we act like there's some sort of value in the doctor. And I think there is some value in the doctor, and nothing against the nurse practitioners. I love you guys, or the PA, but I don't understand it. But in our office, you're not going to get that, because you're going to get that conversation with me, because I can't figure out how to get past it, because I think it's vitally important in the detection and the correction of the subluxation. I've got to see your face. I got to see what's going on. And then we do all of these things. We look at all that stuff. That homunculus, that little man with the big hands, that's the reason that we're looking at what's going on. We're looking at posture. We're looking at brain function on the right side and the left side. There's some fundamental things that we can do. We can look at the right eye to check the brain. We can see how it scans. Those are all things that we can do. And why is your sight so important? And then we evaluate your x-rays. We look at your x-rays and we see, okay, look, we've got a normal and we have an abnormal. Okay, what is that doing to the information going from the body to the brain? That's the fundamentals of how we evaluate someone and why we evaluate them, to try to figure out where that interference is. Hey, that's the end of this show tonight. That's the breakdown of everything that we've got. We've run out of time. We will be back tomorrow night. And tomorrow night, we'll break down the fundamentals of nutrition. We'll look at some of the things that you might want to know when it comes to nutrition. And we'll talk about how the nervous system is involved with nutrition and innate intelligence. So you guys have a great night. If there's anything I can do to answer your questions, please send me a text, a message. And other than that, you guys have a great evening and stay warm.